What is going on, everybody? It is me again, it's HorrorFan34, and welcome back to another video, and welcome to, I guess, a random movie review. I know I've been doing the responses to Julie, doing the alphabetical order, starting with A and B and things like that, those collection videos. But I figured I'd do a random movie review in between them, because I figured this is a film I saw most recently. And it's a newer film I just picked up not too long ago, so I figured it's still fresh in my mind, and I figured I'd give a review of it for you guys, so to give you guys, curiosity to check this film out. But the film I'm going to be talking about today is this film, Point Dume. Now, Point Dume was a film that was released in some place, I think IMDb says 2000, but I think it was made in 1999. Because on the back here it says 1999, so for the sake of it, I'm going to say, I don't know. I'm going to say for the sake of it, 2000, because I think IMDb says it came out in 2000, but maybe it was made in 99. So, but for the sake of it, I'm going to put 2000. But, anyways, the film, directed by Art Camacho. Now, the name sounds familiar. Same guy. He's directed a lot of other stuff, but like the main thing I remember that he directed also was a film called Gangland with Costas Mandylor, Kathleen Kinmont, and even have cameos by Ice-T and Coolio. Tim Thomerson's also in there, and I forget the main villain in that film, but he was also the bad guy in Cyborg with Jean-Claude Van Damme is in that too. So I feel like this is Art Camacho's best film that I've seen so far. And it's a pretty interesting cast, I will say that myself. I mean, basically I'm going to get to the idea, but it's kind of a hard film to explain, but before I get out to that, it has a pretty good soundtrack. You have music by Motley Crue, Motorhead, even Ice-T as well. White Zombie has a couple songs in here too. But basically the film, it follows this. I'll get on right to the cast. You have Richard Grieco, you have Jennifer Odell, Andrew Dice Clay, John Enos, Ice-T, Sebastian Bach from Skid Row, Zach Galligan, things like that. Angie Everhart's one of them. But basically the idea is that Richard Grieco's character plays a guy named Rick Hansen. He's a Hollywood talent agent guy. He goes around and looks for actors and actresses because he's an agent in Hollywood. So, and he's looking to settle down with a woman, trying to find a love interest and things like that. He wants to settle in with a woman and things like that. And one of the places that he goes to try to find love is a strip club called the Playpen. And the owner of the strip club is his buddy Frankie, played by Andrew Dice Clay. And while he's there, Richard Grieco's character meets this waitress named Stephanie, who's played by, and if you don't know who Richard Grieco is, he was from 21 Jump Street, the TV show. Of course, Andrew Dice Clay from Ford Fairlane, Stars Born, of course, all the stand-up comedian, No Contest. It's a really fun action film. But the basic idea is that Richard Grieco meets this waitress that works at the strip club, played by Jennifer Odell, who you might remember from Sometimes They Come Back for More. And little does Richard Grieco know that she's in an abusive relationship with this biker named Blackie, played by John Enos, who is, I remember most from Phone Booth. And he is the leader of this biker gang called the Satan Slaves. And his right-hand man is Zach Galligan, who plays a guy named Spider. So Zach Galligan, from Gremlins and Waxwork and things like that, is the right-hand man of the main biker. And the whole idea is that this biker gang stole drugs from these rivals that they have. One of them is Ice-T, and another rival of theirs that they stole drugs from is this guy named Slim, played by Sebastian Bach from the band Skid Row. And it's this whole thing where Richard Grieco kind of gets thrown into the middle of everything because there's this thing that goes down with the bikers and Ice-T, how there was one guy that stole drugs from them and one guy stole from the gang and betrayed them. It's kind of this whole thing of what happened, and Jennifer Odell is breaking off with Blackie and going with Richard Grieco, and then it comes to this whole thing, what happens with and all that stuff. It's kind of like what happens, and that's pretty much what the idea of the film is about. Now, as weird as this cast is, and on top of that too, Jennifer Odell's character Stephanie has a sister who's an epileptic, played by Angie Everhart, who I remember from Bordello of Blood, Tales from the Crypt, Bordello of Blood, is in this as well. But getting on to, like I said, the cast itself, Richard Grieco, very likable lead in this. I like Richard Grieco in the lead. From what I've heard, though, about when I was reading about the plot and all about this for this film, they said he's like a sleazy talent agent and all that stuff, and he's actually not. He's a very likable guy. I mean, when he meets Jennifer Odell, he treats her really well, says, I'm going to protect you, everything's going to be okay, like, I'll take care of this for you, I'll take care of Blackie, things like that. And, he treats her really well. He's never mean to her, he doesn't mistreat her, and things like that. And Richard Grieco, and of course he gets the lady at the end, spoiler alert, but I'm pretty sure you can probably guess how this film ends, But Richard Grieco does a really great job in the lead, very likable character that he plays. Andrew Dice Clay as his buddy who runs the strip club, Frankie. I mean, of course, it's Andrew Dice Clay being Dice, the way Dice always acts. You'll get the hell out of here. That really thick New York accent. Dice just being Dice. And hey, and even at the end, he gets a girl. He gets the sister of Jennifer Odell, and takes her out to dinner and things like that. So hey, Dice gets a girl at the end too, just like Richard Grieco does. Spoiler, but still, you gotta go check this film out. But I like Dice in this too. He's probably one of the more funnier characters in the movie. Angie Everhart and Jennifer Odell do fine as the main two female characters in the film, and they get onto the villains. John Enos, who plays the leader as Blackie. Very intimidating character, pretty scary guy. You don't want to mess with him. And one of the guys that really did surprise me was Zach Galligan as Spider, who's the right-hand man to John Enos. I mean, Zach Galligan, very different role than from Gremlins and Waxwork, that's for sure, because he's playing a biker in this. But Zach Galligan does very, very well in this film. He's pretty menacing. He's pretty strong character. I really like Zach Galligan's performance. And you also have Ice-T as one of the, I guess, rivals of the bikers because they deal drugs with one another and things like that. Ice-T, gets some pretty good funny lines here and there. I mean, Ice-T, just being Ice-T, pretty much. He's pretty fun in the movie. Now, going into this film, they credit Sebastian Bach, the lead singer of the band Skid Row, on the back here. It says, and introducing Sebastian Bach. He's in the film for no more than 10 minutes. He's in it for like 5 to 7 minutes tops, and then he gets killed by John Enos. So, but for the little bit that he's in, Sebastian Bach, for being a lead singer of the band Skid Row, he's actually pretty good. You tell me where these drugs are, or I'm going to kick your ass back to Timbuktu. I don't know how that's the exact line, but he says a line very along those lines. So Sebastian Bach has a couple fun lines here and there as well. Because basically what happens is there's this really good-looking car chase, really well shot, where Sebastian Bach is chasing John Enos through the streets, and John Enos causes Sebastian Bach to crash his car, and it goes into flames, and he burns to death. And John Enos has that really great looking shot where he's like smiling on his motorcycle while the explosion's going on in the background. One of the only really flaw with this film is some of the editing is a little weird and a little wonky, because there's a couple of moments like here and there that like they kind of fade to black and they kind of cut to another scene that had nothing to do with the scene before it. It's kind of like, I know Art Camacho like has like those kind of like weird edits, I guess you would say, like the way he directs stuff. So it's a little couple wonky editing like scenes, but nothing really more that hurts the film. I mean, there's literally a scene where it's really edited really weird, where the last two bikers that are alive, John Enos and Zach Galligan, they kidnap Angie Everhart and they inject her with something. I don't know if it was like LSD or something like that, and she's like hallucinating, and it's like, you know, like really weird edits, like it's going from like here to like here because she's hallucinating. It's kind of weird how it's edited. So aside from a few like editing problems, I do think it's a pretty fun action film. You do get some pretty good action. Granted, some of the action is kind of ridiculous. Like there's like a guy that shoots like two guns at the same time and it doesn't run out of bullets. So it's kind of like, you know, the action's a little over the top, but still at the same time, it's a fun action film. It's got a pretty good cast. I really like Richard Grieco, Andrew Dice Clay. It was really cool to see Zach Galligan in a different kind of role. You know, Ice-T is always fun. Sebastian Bach, not in it for a whole lot, but he has a couple fun lines here and there. And ironically enough, one of the executive producers is Michael Feichner. I don't know how you say his last name, but he also plays one of the bikers of the gang of John Enos, so I thought that was kind of interesting. But I know this film gets a really low rating on IMDb, like a 3.7, and I'm like, this is not a 3.7. They're kind of, I mean, it's well shot by Art Camacho. It's not cheaply shot. It doesn't look like it was cheaply made. I mean, there's really good action. You got a pretty solid cast and role. I mean, Andrew Dice Clay and Ice-T and Zach Galligan. So you have some recognizable faces, and they're really good in the movie. And the ending's great. I love the way it ends. I'm not going to tell you like what happened. Well, I kind of told you what happened, but the idea is that you find out that, spoiler alert if you don't want to know the ending, but you kind of get the idea that John Enos stole from his own gang, because there's this whole thing where John Enos gives Jennifer Odell this bag and it's full of cocaine and a lot of money in it, and he stole that from his own gang and things like that. And Jennifer Odell lets one of the other members of Blackie's gang know about his betrayal. And the way it ends is they're on the beach and Jennifer Odell shoots Blackie in the shoulder, and Richard Grieco and Dice run him over with a car, but he's not dead yet. But one of the other gang members who Jennifer Odell notified a little bit earlier in the film about his betrayal goes there and shoots Blackie dead. Well, they shoot one another dead, and then that's the end of them. And Richard Grieco and Andrew Dice Clay get the two women at the end. They get the girls at the end, and the movie ends. But it's a really fun action movie. It's got some nice funny lines here and there from Dice and Ice-T and things like that. I like the soundtrack as well. And if you like biker films and you like some of these actors, I think it's worth checking out. It's a really fun action film. But anyways, thank you very much for watching my review for Point Doom, and I will see you guys next time. You guys take care.